26.
I'm going
Going out
in
west.
just to do reception stuff and just
Awesome.
kind of help the girls and schedule people.
I want to do that. Out west.
You do all the social media?
I mean,
I
really
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
spend any time out
Yeah.
there. I wanna, there's so much to see.
Yes, there is.
So. We'll pick
Hey, Josh.
And
Not
Josh.
good.
Josh?
Yeah.
Josh, Josh.
really, not a big deal. And I will.
I won't be here next month. I won't be back yet.
We missed any.
Huh?
I don't think you missed any, did you?
One, but they, oh, that, no, that one didn't count because it was
Some
canceled.
people care about that, some don't, some don't wanna hear anything about it.
I figured.
But you know, like,
Or-
or if Habitat for Humanity is like free money.
It says being live streamed, but then it also said
That
it
would
needs
be
to be
kind of
downloaded.
interesting.
I don't know what year it is.
Alright.
Okay, I'm gonna start recording, just one
Okay.
second.
I worked on her.
All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. 9/8/31. So thank you, everybody, for coming. Those in the audience, appreciate your attendance. I'll make note of it.
Do you have a form?
Yes. So I'll go ahead and get, Margot, if you take roll call, that would be wonderful.
Matt,
Here.
Matt Bagera,
Here.
Jody Eubank,
Here.
Josh Baker. Amy Gillard, I know she said she was coming, so she may just be
There you go.
walking into it. Nikki Law.
Here.
Brian Bedini. We'll get to that. Cora Smith.
Here.
Rocky Bagan,
Here.
Ella Ruddy,
And Amy Gillard.
Amy Gillard.
No, Amy.
Hi.
Good morning, Amy. All right, so if everybody's had time to look at the minutes, it would be great to have the approval of minutes. Or if there's any changes to the minutes, now would be the time to bring that up.
I could read them. I'll make a motion we accept.
Can I just ask one thing? There was just something like repeated on mine when I was looking at it. And it like sentences were repeated.
Oh, it's at the very bottom. I just saw that.
Okay. I
Okay,
saw that too.
so
That's
I
the
will
only.
make that change, repeated sentence, yes.
It was the public comment.
Oh, okay.
Yes, about Mr. Newberry. Yeah. Not that we don't,
I wasn't sure if I repeated it or if it, like I was seeing the page.
yeah, it's right at the page split. So.
Okay, maybe it,
Thank you for bringing that up, Amy. And Cora, so I heard, did I hear approval of minutes
I
from
made a
Jody?
motion.
Support.
All in favor? Awesome. Thank you, audience, for attending. Is there any public comment at this time? Appreciate all
Would
of
you folks
your.
like to introduce yourselves? Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay, there's too many to go through that right now. We'll keep going.
I want the record to show that I was here in attendance.
It is.
I'm hopping into their.
And one thing I'll say, we've had like a fair amount of retail frauds or shoplifting this summer.
We have.
And we, yesterday, we had another $100 for the outfitter. A lady from Nebraska came in and shopped and bought some items and left the tag for her shorts that we feel she stole in the lock in the changing room. And so we got a search warrant for her credit card that she purchased the stuff with and tracked her down, called her on last Friday. And she sent a $100 check, came in the mail yesterday to take care of the shorts, so.
awesome.
But, so it's like Tyler Swiss did a good job on it, but cameras really help downtown. We've had some really good luck with cameras this summer. So for the businesses, I appreciate they would invest even in a cheap, like Nest camera. It definitely helps us. Wow. And all these people are people who have one.
Yeah, that's great to hear. And not great to hear that's happened, but great to hear that the money came back. And then that's something that we could, even talk about as a downtown development authority to bring that up as a letter form or something to businesses of letting them know that cameras do help and you get money back and,
That's it. Thank you.
yeah, that's awesome. So let's roll right into promotions. We're doing the Ice Fest wrap up.
So the promotions committee met and did a little wrap up after Ice Fest. First of all, we have, let's see here, all of the sponsors and where they were at, who we had. We do still have, I believe it is 8 outstanding invoices. I'll go down, see who's been invoiced and who has paid. See, there are a few, and we will knocking on your door. But we do need to get those hands settled, and another round of invoices for those will go out this month. We just continually send them out until they're paid.
So besides sending them out, do they come from the DDA saying, hey, by the way, you?
They come from the city, it's billed from the city
All right.
directly, a statement, an outstanding statement.
So at what point do we want to split up those 8 people and say, okay, hey, board members, can you reach out to them and say, hey, do you realize you haven't?
Yeah, did I see between the covers on that one?
No, between the covers is paid.
Oh, okay, I was
Yeah,
going quickly.
between the covers paid. Oh, here has not.
Josh,
He's not here.
so Josh.
I mean, all of, for the most part, I mean, I'm not too concerned. I mean, as far as the people, they
They just haven't done it yet.
and they're typically, you know.
Typically do.
And we kind of know them all, kind of looking.
Staffords.
What?
I don't see a check.
Yeah, for your last one. And it may have gone.
Amy's just coffee while I love it.
Staffers?
Staffers.
I'm speaking the truth.
You
Is
are.
that the $500 one?
Yeah.
I think that was
Yeah,
billed
it
a
was
little
billed
later.
later, yes, yeah.
Checks in the mail.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Okay.
can call out all 8 right now.
All right, so
Take records.
So we did do a follow-up ad. I think we, you know, in the newspaper, I don't know if all of you saw that. It came a week or so after the Ice Fest. It had all of the sponsors and some nice thank yous. I thought it looked really nice.
I think that's nice, and it gives the people that pay an extra shout out in the paper saying that, hey, thank you for supporting that. I think it's a great idea. I did see that. That's nice.
I think too, we had a good evaluation process of, we already know the things we want to do better, especially with signage, and be able to do directional things, and how we can do that with, like, the book festival has lots of sandwich boards that we can use. So it's just a matter of creating some better signage, and we know we want to do stuff better with more activities. So we've got a really good list and are building on something that's a really good thing. So it's just gonna get better, which is exciting.
Well, and I think we flowed really well, given what we started to do, and then we backed off with what we ended up having to do
Yeah.
because of COVID. So I think any little hiccups were just a result of us, you know, not knowing if we were gonna add something or if we were gonna do something. So I think, given again, another year of changes and things being different, I think the event turned out really, really well.
Yeah. One recommendation that the committee had was that unless we were able to kind of handle the administrative, either a form or something for the scavenger hunt, that we maybe pursue something with Molly at Taco Nexus to do more of a hands-on scavenger hunt, because the email, the
registration
and
was-
the registration, and even, I think even a lot of people had trouble using the app itself for the clue hunt. So that may be a recommendation that we look at another avenue for that kind of activity.
I think that'd be great to use Topo Nexus. I think that'd be really awesome to incorporate keep everything really local.
Were there a lot of people that did the scavenger hunt? Because I kept seeing, all the time, I kept seeing it pop up on the Facebook page, like, hey, how do I get the form, or how do I do this?
I mean, I think we've had, I heard mixed things from at least the clients that participated at it from the salon. There were quite a few of my clients who had kids that did it, and some people that were pretty tech savvy, loved it. And then there were a couple people that, you know, I had a grandma who
Yeah.
took her grandkids and she didn't quite understand how the app worked or anything. So,
And rightfully so.
yeah, so, but, so I think there's definitely room for improvement on that.
Great.
And we hope to bring back the chili cook-off or
Yeah.
something
Yeah,
like
for sure.
that.
We did have, I thought we had some really good advertising through the newspapers, but through the television, all radio advertising. So I did think all of that went really well. So our budget came in, our total income with the various sponsorships was $25,450. Our expenses to Rock on Ice were at $17,450. And our total expenses were at $18,968, leaving us with a net of $6,482. So we definitely hit our mark. We had been saying that even with the DDA sponsoring a sculpture, which we did the ring toss and that we wanted to still be coming out hopefully at 5,000. And so we more than did that. So I think we did a really good job.
And I think events like this aren't just about making money. It's great that we made $6,400, but I also think it's the importance of bringing people downtown and everything. I mean, when Jen and I came down that first day, it was negative 27 degrees or whatever it was. And, you know, we played the games and did that. And there were even people down there, you know, walking around at that time, you know, looking at the sculptures, doing the live, looking at the live sculpture. They stayed right on that Main Street area when he was carving, and I don't know how those guys carve in that temperature, because I mean, we kept going inside to warm up, and he said he got used to it, you know, but it was, I think it was fun. That was probably the most I spent down there for the X-Fest, most time I spent down there for the X-Fest. And I think I saw a lot of people using I thought in the beginning of the game, you know, the ring toss, all that stuff, I thought was, personally, I thought it was unneeded, but I was completely wrong, because there were a lot of people down there using that stuff and hanging out in that area. So I was happy to see that.
By afternoon, that area was packed.
It really was.
So I'd say the only negative that came up was the fact that the carvers carved a dragon at the church. The church was unhappy about that. And so if we were to choose to use that location again, they would want a pre-approval of a sculpture. It really, in my discussion with the carver, when I went to him, I first asked for a peacock, because that's what Nikki and I had discussed. And he said that wouldn't really show very well. And that usually in those kind of larger cases, it's carver's choice, and that they would prefer to play upon the strengths of the carver, whichever carver happens to be there. We've had an eagle, we've had an owl. I didn't think there would be anything controversial in any way. He carved a dragon. The church wasn't happy. We then had Lucas remove it the next day. So, I mean, that's probably the only negative that really came out of it. And we'll just have to decide whether we choose to use that location again. If we do, we do need to get approval. And I've already talked to Father James Beers about that's what he would expect, so.
I say we choose not to use that place again. I'm just saying it's a good thing that it was Nikki, Brian, and myself that had that sculpture, because otherwise we probably would have returned $1,500 to somebody that it was demolished the next day.
Right, which is too bad.
Well, especially since, I mean, it was a Chinese New Year and it was the year of the dragon. So I think that was probably
Mythological creature, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
And if you Google serpent versus dragon, I sent that to most of you.
Yes.
There's a big difference.
So we'll just have to be conscious of that. I mean,
Yes.
the pros of that, it's a great visible area. It's a great spot to do something like that. The bad thing is we don't want to offend anybody, anything the DDA does. We try to promote the downtown, not make people upset. So
Yes.
just something to think about in the future. If we are going to do that area, that there have to be.
It wasn't intentional.
No,
not
at all.
And I think he and I had enough conversations that he's aware of that, but We just need to.
Yeah, move on,
avoid it in the
yeah.
future.
The city's budget for Ice Fest shows us at 12,000 in income and 10,000 in expenditures.
Right. Which is so netting us about $2,500.
I didn't know if everybody was aware of that, but
Yeah, I mean, we just put it in usually as far as, I mean, obviously our income was much more than that this year, but I mean, we have to put in something as far as where we think we're gonna be at. What we think.
I think it is, I think from a committee standpoint, it's safe to say that we have hit 40 sculptures for the last 3 years.
Yeah.
So like you said, we have a good, not many people that have done it in the past either said no or even hemmed or hawed about whether or not they wanted to be involved in it. And the price went up fairly significantly this year compared to years past. And we were not held with much resistance at all as far as being involved in it, the involvement. So
The one thing I think that we saw is that we did see, well, we didn't do any demonstrations last year, and I think we're gonna, but people were excited to do that this year, and I do think that if things stay the same way, we're gonna see people more doing choosing to do the live demonstrations on the streets and maybe even some of the larger ones around. We didn't seem to have any problem getting the larger, more of the avalanche, blizzard, sculpture, sponsorships. People were really excited to do that. And I think since we allowed them to have their own signs next to that, to their pieces, I think they were pretty happy with it. And I think they got pretty good advertising, so I think people might actually even increase in the next year or two.
well, that's what you found out, what we found that out late. I mean, everybody that wanted to do the big ones were like 3 days before, 4 days before,
Right.
Anyway,
Well, we had a couple shutdowns too, things like that.
good event, and we
Yeah.
made a little bit of money.
Yep. So any other discussion, improvements, changes?
Anybody else that attended or no unruly people during Ice Fest? Kyle?
No, we're all set.
No people throwing the ring, not in the proper place.
Exactly. The signs are nice. So Nikki, you did the signs, right? So thanks for that. That looked really nice. So I thought that was helpful as well. When you walk around, you see who's sponsoring everything. So that was really neat. All right. So anything else from promotion? All right. Well, then downtown enhancement, we're walking right into there. So the first one's Main Street Tree Garden, or Main Street Tree Bed Gardens. So
It's getting complicated. The
Yeah, I know,
name is
yeah.
getting more complicated as we separate it.
the names kind of changed just because of the guardian sculptures that's farther down on the agenda. We don't want to confuse everybody. But that's on there because, well, I mean, we are the downtown development authority. So the trees in downtown, if something's not done to the trees, as we all know, it looks bad. There's been mulch, the city's thrown the mulch down there and the mulch ends up all over the sidewalk and it looks horrible. We had multiple issues before we presented. We did a lot of work last year, learned a lot last year about the water is not adequate for trees. Some of the trees don't have water. Some of the water trees that should have water don't work. So there's a lot of opportunity with the watering. Then we brought it to the city and showed the city what we found out. At that time, we said, okay, this is what we found out. This is what we did, blah, blah, blah. I don't want to leave it until I think it's March. Wow, it's March. So I mean, right around the corner, the snow's gonna be gone, and those tree grates or trees are gonna look horrible again unless something's done. So we need to figure out either bring to the city, what do you want to do, or we can try to find out different options. And I thought if we work together with the city and say, okay, this is we've gone one step further. We found that we worked with Scott Davis with Davis Irrigation to see if he can change around the watering system in there, with some type of different head or whatnot. So there's a few different things that Margot's been working on. I'll let you talk about that as well. But we need to I want to work with the city to make sure that we don't say, okay, we tried this, it didn't work. And then the city said, okay, we'll do it, but then nothing happens again. Because we are the downtown, that is our area. And I want to work together to get something done. So this group, I'm hoping, comes up with an idea. And Margot, I'll let you say what you've done so far and with the information you found out.
So I've contacted Scott Davis, and he's gonna get me a quote. He's gonna go down and look at the irrigation heads and obviously right now it's just a drip line. He did talk to Lucas. His main concern is the supply line and being able to, what kind of transfers if it's too much pressure, because it's city, like it might be more pressure, I guess, from what I understand, than like what a regular residential. So he needed to look at that. And he and Lucas spoke. They talked about the heads. The heads that we need are the kind that, spray like this, out. The only problem with that is there will be overwatering from the beds because those tend to have a spray radius that's much larger than our tree holes. But he's gonna give me a quote as far as that. I've also spoken with Nancy Zucker from the Harbor Springs Garden Club. Again, they're not interested in really helping on to actively physically do anything on the project, but they are willing to really help us find some sort of plant or flower or anything that would be a better solution than the petunias, because those were very weak and not hardy for last year. And she had some other suggestions. She's currently in Florida, and she's, once we kind of figure out what we're doing with the sprinklers, she thought that was definitely the right way to go and what would need to happen. But again, there's some real issues that we need to find out from Scott as far as, some of those are really mounded up. Some of them have so many roots. I mean, is it even going to be possible? Victor and I had a conversation about kind of just what we did in the past. And Matt, you can speak to this about whether council would be, Victor was thinking at this point, given some of the financial issues that the council is going through, probably wouldn't be in favor of doing another donation to and contributing to that, so that this may be fully on the DDA's shoulders. Otherwise, the city may just do something like mulch the tree beds. I think my recommendation is that we continue to pursue it, because we as the DDA have, I think, an obligation to enhance the downtown, and I don't think mulch is, we've seen.
No, I don't think that's so great.
Yeah, mulch looks horrible. I mean, I would like our downtown to look nice. I mean, I think this started because I think our mayor pointed out that they looked horrible and something should be done. So it is in the downtown. So I do think I feel some responsibility, even though there's been so much turmoil on it. I think it's been a learning experience. So let's try to figure out what we can do. And the DDA now has some money that we could, say, hey, the DDA can pay for the water sprinklers. The DDA, if that tree is mounded up and you can't put flowers there, well, let's get a price on like pulling that tree up and digging down and doing it the right way. Just one tree or two trees. So we can hopefully do that together and find out to make Harbor Springs look like it should.
With the sprinkler system, just out of curiosity, can that be, since you said there would be an overspraying issue, is that something that can be set up like on a timer type situation? So it'd be in the middle of the night? Because that's when I do my lawn and I spray into the street most of the time.
Yeah, it is already at night, and it would be. Another thing we talked about in the downtown enhancement committee was tree trimming, that some of the trees are, and I know our DPW does it, but it may be something that the DDA wants to look at, actually having, a tree trimmer come in and trim them. I don't want to say.
Well, not just look at the wires to trim or take it down, because right now the canopy's down so low that I think, Rocky, you had mentioned that people come out of your store and get poked in the eye because they're down. So I think that that wouldn't be hard to do, and I'm not saying we should say to the city, like, hey, you should pay for this. I'm like saying we should get the information and see what this information is. And as long as it doesn't blow it up to be a $300,000 project, we could, look at this to try to make it work.
Well, also, I just feel like if you keep a tree small on the top, it's probably gonna stay small on the bottom too. If it's
Yeah.
growing out of control on the top, the roots are gonna be growing out of control, it's gonna probably buckle the sidewalk into mounding and all the things that.
But the roots are already a problem.
Yeah.
When we planted the flowers last year, is that last year?
Yeah.
Okay. Last year in May, some of them, we had a hard time keeping the flowers in because we couldn't dig far enough just to get the flower in because the roots are so out of control.
And I think.
And that's something we would need to, and I don't know, I mean, if it's something we have to go to, if we want to remove a couple of the over large ones, is that something we need to go to the tree board?
Yeah, tree board's in charge of that.
Okay,
Yeah, I think we should definitely incorporate them and just mark the trees or mark or somehow document the trees that we feel need to be done and just bring to the tree board and say, hey, we want to plant flowers here, but we can't.
Didn't the tree board do that when we were looking at the tree
Tree
grate issue? Like they
That-
came around
yeah.
and like
That and I
documented all the
did.
trees that needed to be first, you and John
me
did, correct?
and Ben,
Oh,
Ben
Ben.
Vealing,
Okay.
the city's arborist.
Do we
went
still
around.
have that
We
report?
should, yeah, and we can look at, and I'll give Ben a call and talk to him because we did look at which, before we went the route of let's remove all the trees, I think we did earmark, he and I walked around and earmarked at least, 5 that were significantly.
I mean, I think if we could have, some solid answers on like the sprinklers in the water system and what type of flower and any kind of tree trimming that needs to be done, I think that it isn't unrealistic to think that we could have it done by Memorial Weekend. If possible, we have a couple months. And if we could get the kids from the National Honor Society again.
Oh,
Yeah.
so
I think we could do that.
we could either choose to do that. The other thing is I did speak with Rachel, the Parks and Rec director, and she has, with her staff, that she said she could probably even spare, whether it was, once a week, a couple, for, a couple hours or something like that, have one of her people come in and also do some of the maintenance and weeding and things like that. So it doesn't get out of hand, but we can pursue both.
Well, if we don't have the watering issue, I don't think we would need as many people. Like as much maintenance as there was last year. So, for the National Honor Society to be able to do that, and then there wouldn't be a, massive paid overhead.
Right, we don't have to have,
We don't have to have somebody
No, we
on
don't have-
staff.
yeah, exactly. We don't have to have Kathy watering
I
every
was just gonna
tree.
say Kathy was on staff
And
last year.
Caitlin, I think Caitlin picked a day every day then to water. So we do need to get past that, but if they are in the downtown, if we don't do anything, I feel that just because of the constraints of funds and everything right now, I think, I'm assuming the city would just say, right now, this year, let's just mulch them. And I don't want that to happen.
I think the DDA can make something happen with it, in collaboration with the city, if we know the biggest challenge last year seemed to be the watering situation. So if we could figure that part of it out, I don't think it would be an unreasonable thought process to make that happen.
Am I wrong, or was there also the issue of trampling the flowers?
Well, because we
we
don't
didn't
have a
have the-
box anymore. And they said we
I mean,
can't.
we're gonna have that, regardless, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, that might be a lot less and I mean, it would be great, and I have to admit that I didn't do any, I did volunteer for the watering, but as far as the planting and replanting, I wasn't there at all, so.
No,
I mean,
no,
if
you were
the-
not.
If we as a DDA could do also some volunteerism and help out with that, and that would be great if this board could say like whatever day at whatever time we
I'd be happy to help with
check
that.
on to.
And it really was
replant.
quick. I mean, honestly,
It doesn't
it
take
was
long.
not, the planting and the unplanting was so fast. The watering,
It was a long
that
time.
was an issue. We can't have that. I mean, I was up and down the streets with my 7-year-old watering and it was just not,
Kathy, did you want to speak to that since your face is in the,
Good morning, everybody. I'm up and early here in California. A couple of things. One, there are at least 2 bases that have absolutely nothing in it, no tree and no watering. So I know we talked about speaking with the city about just cementing those back in, since it appears that trees will never work there. One
We
is
have
by,
spoken to them, Kathy, and I think the plan when I last talked with Lucas was that those would be handled this spring, when
Great.
all the trees were being handled, but I will verify that with him just to make sure.
okay. And those 2 were a particular challenge to keep watered. And we had a couple of business owners nearby that helped. Yes, there was a lot of trampling. The 2 biggest spots were in front of the coffee shop, which is now Birch Tree, and down nearer Paper Station where people would put their bikes on those. But essentially those were the 2 biggest. We planted probably half those beds at the replanting side. But yes, the rest of town occasionally got stepped on. Largely the rest of the town did okay. Just those 2. And as long as we know it, don't get upset about it. It's just the reality. It's gonna get stepped on there.
so do you think, was it the circumstances or was it the petunias in general that?
That was the problem. It was so dry.
And the petunias were not a very substantial plant, from what I understand, that there could be
Not a
something
favorite.
that's
More
could
hardy.
be, yeah,
You need something
more durable.
And patients, aren't they more
No,
durable?
they're shade.
No, shade, yeah. I was looking at Petoskey's done begonias and they've done marigolds. I mean, you need a more, just
I
more.
think, and I think
substantial
that's where
plant,
Nancy will be very,
Yep.
helpful in her assistance with coming up with something.
so Definitely.
We did some pre-planting prep last year. Dana did a lot of that, figuring out how many flats we needed, how much topsoil we needed. And also we now have the tools. We didn't have trowels. We now are in DDA that's laden with trowels. So we're great for that. But there is some prep work, and you put a committee together and that won't take much time.
And we do have all of that information of, from last year, of how
Do
much
we? Okay, I was just gonna ask
soil,
that.
mulch and flowers. and
Yeah,
flats
Anna
that
did a
we
great job
that we
of
did
putting that all
purchase.
together, so.
Oh, good, that at least some of that legwork is done, which will make things a little bit easier.
So we should proceed forward with,
Getting the information from the city.
Yeah, information collection on what we can do with the watering system, but at a minimum, at least we want to plant flowers again for this summer.
I agree.
is the goal then in the long run, Kathy, you were speaking to, is the goal for us to eventually just not have trees downtown because of the? I mean, are we
That's an
gonna?
interesting, some cities I know have gone to just completely take the trees out. And that has been discussed. I know, Matt, you've mentioned that a couple of times at the council's table, that perhaps we should take them out. Sure, it would make our sidewalks wider and probably safer. The biggest downside would be Christmas tree lighting time without lights down the street. So I think the DDA at some point might want to chime in on that, but I'm not sure whether it's going to be a DDA decision or council. It's going to change the look of downtown.
The bigger, and a bigger there's a bigger conversation for another time, yeah.
It sure is. And I'm not sure it's just DDA. I think tree board might want to chime in on that as well.
Yeah,
And council would want to chime in as well, I'm sure too.
I think they would ultimately have the final say as to what would happen.
Oh,
It
yeah.
would be city council's decision ultimately.
Thoughts, Matt? Would you like to, I mean, like,
I guess my thought on that was to get rid of the trees on the south side of the street because they're always shaded. And those are the ones we have the most problems with. I talked to Victor about that at one time. And on the
Wouldn't
north
that look
side,
lopsided though if you had one side with no trees?
Yes.
Well, and then the other question, the community, I could see people really being upset that you don't have those lights for the holidays.
Right.
And is that really something that anybody wants to?
I stepped out of this balloon into a massive.
I would, personally, I
Should have
would.
taken that phone call.
Yeah, meters, I don't-
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I might.
Tearing
have
every
to
tree
touch that
down,
one with a
yeah.
10-foot
And you're in
pole.
charge.
Well, I think what we need to do for now is to finish getting the information from to see if we need to, if the water, the irrigation can even be fixed. And if we can do it in the city and then go from there.
I think it can be done. My honest thought is, I think it can be done if we're willing to remove some of the trees and replace, some of the too large trees and replace them with smaller ones, just because.
That did come up at council the other night.
I
I
did hear
guess the cottage company's got to replace 2 or 3 trees.
So maybe,
Someone
maybe
A
if
couple
that's,
trees out.
Yeah, they took
Paper
some.
station, the Turkish, you were talking about.
Well, no, he said-
He just wants his gone.
Oh,
he's
wow.
wanted his own. for a
I think
while.
in council, and correct me if I'm wrong, they just, Mossberg is taking a couple trees out. But then they were worried about setting a precedent, so getting some type of consistency, because what if Mike says, okay, well, I want to take mine out too, and then just rips his out, so.
And I think that's what Victor said at the council meeting the other night, that there is now a policy, so that if we're not talking about removing the tree altogether, and not replacing it. We're talking about replacing a tree that's too large that we can't even put a sprinkler in or have it
Flowers or
functioning.
anything.
And and removing those, putting in a small street size tree and putting that in. I think that fits within the tree board policy. I think what the question was with city council the other night was that they were moving it and not putting them back in the same place.
Well,
So,
and
I mean, I think this is a 2-pronged fork, is like, one, let's again get ready to do something, summer's coming, it's like, it's coming whether we want it to or not, most people want it to, but so let's get our city looking nice, so do something with the tree, or the tree beds. In the meantime, it's an ongoing project, as in everything in the city is an ongoing project, because we gotta do something with everything in the downtown, otherwise, like right now, I'm happy to see it'll come back up in the downtown, the lighting project, so for now, let's just agree to, let's try to figure if there's something out we can present with some information using the tree board to present to council, like this is an option. What do you guys think? You want to do this or not? And what I like is that there are some funds that we have that based on the laws of the DDA, we could use some of them to replace 2 trees, do the sprinklers. And then if we can get some volunteerism on this board, and maybe even some of the school, I'm also conscious that we don't want to give $2,000 or $3,000 to the students, but maybe the students would like to come down and help. So we can look at all of that together and try to find a solution for this summer, because if we don't start talking about it now, to a plan in place, it won't happen.
well, and if we are talking, if something does happen where some trees have to be replaced, like Matt had said, made a good point. On the south side, it's so shady that if there are any trees over there, maybe we can look at getting a tree with help with the tree board, that it's a shade tree, so they don't have as many problems, because there's a lot of trees. I mean, there's a lot of maples that are pretty full sun tolerant that are over there that maybe when they were planted, they got more sun or what, I don't know.
Yeah.
So just things that we can look at to make a multi-step process a little bit easier.
So if we're looking down the line and ultimately, and I'm not pushing this, but it would seem to me that it might be the natural move that the trees eventually will start going away because they're growing too big, or the root system is an issue. Perhaps we could, you don't think so?
Well, I know, I was gonna say that I think what the ultimate goal was, what we've tried in the tree grade process, was to get them standardized. Maybe there would be fewer, but not gone, but more standardized and more of a street size acceptable.
Exactly, and I think anybody talks to any research you've done, and we've had a bunch of research has been put into this project. street trees last, whatever it is, 5 years, or I don't know what the number is, but street trees don't last forever in the tree because they get too big. And then I think when we worked with the tree board last time, you can take that bigger tree out and move it and plant it somewhere else if it's in good health, and then just buy another tree and put it in there. And if we don't do them all at the same time, like this year, if we say there's 2 that need to be completely taken out, I think we do have the funds for the DDA to say, okay, let's do this. Let's rip them out. Okay, tree board, where do you want us to put it? Because we got a tree that's too big, and then they can tell us where to put it, and we can put it there. The tree board also gets a donation. So they might be able to say, well, we can help is we can pay for those 2 trees. We have 2 trees over here that are donated. So then the DDA doesn't have to pay for the tree. The DDA would have to pay for the removal and replanting of that tree. So we can work as a team, the city, the DDA, and the tree board to make the downtown beautiful.
Is there a way to use the trees that Rob must replace to replace the trees that we are thinking need a switch out? So could we ask for those trees to remain within the CBD?
I don't see why not. That's a great point that we will have to add that to our
Why does he have to
discussion.
replace them?
He cut them out in front, or took them out in front of his projects.
So where did they end up?
They're gone. Those are gone.
Those are in the dumpster.
Yeah.
Those got,
And he's got, I think, 3 trees that are gonna get planted somewhere around town.
Yeah,
They're just in the wings.
So he's not gonna replace them where?
not onto the
No.
street.
no, not in the holes that they were, because there's no hole there now.
He also put in a snow melt system in front of the building. So there is a heated sidewalk, so.
I know that they did that around in the driveway, but I didn't see that.
Yeah, and they're doing that in the building, and so that was part of the issue too with the tree.
But Kathy, that's a great point. There's 3 trees right there. If we say we need
Right.
2, they were in the CBD in front of Collins Company. So why don't we talk about that and get those to be in the 2 holes? And now we can drop the price to just excavate, move.
I'd find 3 and use all 3. I would find 3, because I'm sure there's a third one that's probably on the fence of being to be replaced. So I would find a third one and replace all 3 of them with those 3 trees.
That's a very good point,
Because I'm sure there's one that maybe next year we're gonna be in the same boat and we would have taken that
Yes.
tree and put it somewhere else.
That's a very good point. So,
So we need the recommendation then of the tree board to tell us if they think that we can still plant flowers in.
I wouldn't mix tree board and flowers.
We're just asking what their recommendation is as far as like any trees that may have to be removed.
What type of tree, they will tell us what type of trees, and then we will say, these are the 3 that we think, and do you agree, or do you recommend moving 3 other ones? And then take them out, but that all has to go in the same time, as soon as we take that out, we have to work with Scott Davis and irrigation.
Most likely the 3 new ones are gonna need to be watered probably twice as much as any other tree.
So as soon as they plant them, I think they use that big bag system until it gets established. That's what they did up here.
Matt, I did want to ask, there already hasn't been a selected location for those mossberg trees there.
There is not.
Okay.
All right, let's, if we can agree, excuse me, if we can agree to have Margot talk to Victor on, if he thinks that could be a great direction, I think it's a great idea to just say use those 3 trees. Somehow we have to walk around or talk to.
I mean, we said that there was
Tree board,
5 that could have been replaced possibly from the report from before, from the tree board, so.
Was that what it was?
Yeah, I say the tree
Yeah.
board knows which ones need to be pulled.
So maybe so find the
Okay.
3 worst and go from there.
So just ask the tree board what 3 pull them, work with Scott on the irrigation. Before we do this, let's engage Victor in the city to make sure that we are working together and not in opposite directions. And then I think it could work. And then working with the garden club of consulting, not doing the planting. And I will make a valiant effort if we can look at schedules to try to figure out, if we start looking at schedules now and I schedule it, I could definitely schedule the time when I would be able to come down there, and I could get, I'm sure, my wife to come with me with shovels and whatnot to plant flowers.
So we have 10 weeks.
That's about my
10 weeks
schedule.
from now, realistically, is when we're looking at
I have to do it after Mother's Day, right?
We usually do it,
Yeah.
we try, I think,
Memorial
around
Day.
around Memorial Day or when the garden club's doing their big planting day.
Right, and then you guys can all come help plant for my graduation party at my house.
Yeah.
They put it on the 25th,
They planned on the 25th? Thank you,
May
Kyle.
25th.
10 weeks, I'm like, don't tell me 10 weeks, don't say that.
May
What
20th.
day is
Just
that?
use We'll be there.
It's a
Usually it's the
Wednesday.
Wednesday before.
I'm saying yes.
Kids usually need a weekend.
Yeah, I think we did we do it on,
We did it before Memorial Day.
we did it like Saturday or Friday of
Kinda-
Memorial
It got
weekend?
moved.
It was kind of, yeah, remember we had to have a rain date too.
So this is all great conversations. Speaking of time, this is the downtown enhancement committee. So can Margaret, can you pull the downtown enhancement committee together and this tree bed garden project together? And then we can do the worker bee then, and then we can try to get some dates out. So it would be wonderful if we could have participation from this volunteerism to plant. Okay, moving on.
Yes.
Downtown lighting project, where are we with that, Margot? I have a
See the
picture.
picture?
Oh, you almost
I
got
took- I took a
it.
picture.
I took the picture.
I took one.
I just watched them do it out my window.
Clearly, you all know that the lights are being switched over, the globes are in, the
Yes.
lights are in, that it's all happening. I posted it on social media yesterday. It's now that it's warm, it's
You got a
Are there
mirror.
multiple trucks doing it at one time, or is it just one? Because I watched the one in front of Johann's, and it took them all day to do the 5, so.
Yeah.
But then I saw one
Well,
down.
they were down at Bar Harbor.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so,
Bar Harbor.
so there were,
Yeah,
that's what I'm
they were
asking,
on
there's a
Main
couple,
Street.
they're doing
Really
as
clean.
much as they can. Great,
and so as, if we
Whatever was
remember,
happening.
yeah, looks
remember
great.
that
They look
the-
really
the
clean.
total cost estimate for that is $20,328, so that we're still
This
within
is a
budget of
project
that.
that the DDA is paying for.
Yes.
correct?
Mhm.
And can you I send you this picture, can you get it on our website saying, look at what we're doing?
It's already up, Tim.
It's
It's on,
already
it's already on Facebook. It's already on.
Yeah.
Where have you
Sure.
been?
Yesterday.
That's what we were all talking about, seeing the picture.
My
You didn't
picture,
see it on
not
your
your
phone.
Well, let me send you a better picture. You get a beer in there.
That's great. Okay, so that's what's happening with that one. I don't-
We're gonna send another one. I'll send you one. Okay, perfect. I think that's awesome and everything. When we get done with that, can we
Yeah.
like take like a really pretty picture?
A video or.
Thank you. So that's awesome. And that's I think a win for the city and the DDA and everybody involved. Merchants Walkway. So do you want to take that?
It's still there. I said it's still there.
It's still there. Well, we still have snow there too, though.
Yeah.
But he's been definitely helpful, and I'll let you go ahead and you have the expertise on that.
So basically, we're just waiting for the snow to melt, and once it melts, we can reassess the site. We need to know the concrete thickness and just mark it up, call for utility finder, make sure that we don't hit any underground utilities and gas lines, but we only have, I think, a 2-week window once we call.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure it's within the 2 weeks before we start doing demolition. And once we have that, we do the demo plan and the safety plan, we submit it, and we're ready to go. And I just got to coordinate the material with John for him to haul away.
Perfect.
But you should think about snow fencing it for safety until the concrete goes in, if that's the route you decide to go with concrete.
So I spoke with John Cups and and I know I put the two of you together as far as coordinating a date for demolition and removal with his dump truck, and he had no problem with that. He's also getting me a quote for the wall repair and the install of the plaza, concrete area. I know we talked about a couple of different things like with stamped concrete or aggregate. Both, I believe Rocky and John recommended not doing aggregate, that was going to be more maintenance, and it could be, but the stamped, if we wanted to make it something to match, kind of looking like the bricks, or an outline, that was a possibility. But John was going to give me a quote because I think that is the best route, that you decided that you could do the demolition, but your schedule, we would still need somebody to do the install.
Yeah, I mean, we do have the stamps, commercial grade stamps that he can use because most people here don't have them. So we do have a couple of different types of stamps and you can choose which ones if you decide to go that route. I did come up with an additional thing that we have to do. We can't just like go and demo that concrete. Just, we have to do some saw cutting as well. So we don't damage the asphalt, we don't damage adjacent properties. So there's some things that I discovered that need to be, some extra work needs to be done. But I would say, let's get a price on the concrete, see where it comes in at. For both stamped and for just regular flat work concrete.
So in my opinion, we need to do a lot of flat, but we want to maybe we do stamped around the edges. Two reasons. One, if you try to shovel a stamped concrete, it's kind of a pain. Two, Mr. Ruddy has talked about possibly doing a jazz concert down there.
Yeah, so we could do that.
So once we get done, we can have a jazz concert from this high school down there as a, look at this, the fountain's gone, or whatever you want to call it. And as a neat little place to do it. But the flatness would be nice to be able to.
You're not gonna be on the marketing committee. I'm just saying. Just going down that path.
So, I mean, we could take that back also to the downtown enhancement committee and talk about it, but whether we do, a couple of times ago, we talked about doing saw cuts, so that way it doesn't, it's still flat, but you do different saw cuts to make it attractive. And then there's a lot of there's brick, so you could stamp around the edges rather than do brick. So there's a lot of different options there, but I would vote for doing a lot of it just flat. Whether you have saw cuts or not, doesn't matter, but so that way you can set up a little jazz band, tables, a lunch spot, whatever. So more to come. If anybody wants to come down to the downtown enhancement committee and use their noggin to give ideas, we're always welcome to have people. And even people that aren't on the committee. We need another meeting.
Because I need more to do. I'm looking.
So that's an update on that downtown garden scholarships. So I will actually default this one to Rocky.
You keep looking this way constantly.
I know. Well, it's good. We got some new ideas.
So I was in Sault Ste. Marie and I spoke to Bunkner Manufacturing. We have a big contract with him, so I was able to kind of persuade him to throw in maybe 4 or 5 of these and put his business on there for advertising, like a small plate. You can put who created it, and if people want more of them for their houses or whatever, they can call him. So we might be able to get 4 or 5 for free from him. Also contacted Matthew Fogg from Charlevoix, St. James Marine. They do fabrication on the side as well, and he might be able to get us a couple more, so we could be up to 6 or 7. Our goal is to try to get about 25 of these in the next couple of years, to kind of build it up to where now we have a full display. So that's where we're at pretty much.
So just to kind of recap from the Downtown Enhancement Committee and this came up in the last meeting, was that Rocky brought this up, that this could be a great attraction to our downtown. And we talked about it, and then Rocky and Cora were gonna go reach out to a couple of metal fabricators that they knew to see if this would be a possibility. And we just might start small this year, even with like 4 or 5, and then place them in, we plant them. But we ask a few strategic businesses and locations to water them and keep them at their spot as a nice attraction and something, a point of interest for the downtown.
So this is, one of those things that could be an attraction, and obviously we have to engage council and say, this is an idea, what do you think and whatnot. But I mean, even in my hometown of St. Joseph, every single year, almost on every corner in the downtown, they do these big, either there'd be teddy bears or there'd be sailboats or whatever, and then artists in the community paint them any way they want.
That's exactly what I was thinking about, was like the cows and like everything.
And the cows do it. So this is a really neat idea that Rafi brought to us. And I mean, us as a business, I would definitely sponsor one and pay for one and then maintain the watering of it or whatnot. So other people might, this is not to be an expense to the city by any means. This is something that either the DDA or the DDA works with different businesses to bring it in. Rocky's idea of getting a few started this year as no cost to anybody, you know, as either the D or except for maybe the DDA has to put something in, or the DDA works with the businesses and says, okay, Jody said she'd water every one of these every day, or whatever the case might be. Then we go forward and say, this is an example. And I mean, these are, look at that guy.
I mean, I
They're
really think
cool.
that you could have businesses that would be willing to have them in front of their businesses and would sponsor the
To
plan.
like pay
And,
a
I mean, I would.
It's kind of what I was thinking too, is that, I mean, I would almost
I
think
have
that
a
like
good
for a
one.
summer, you know, no different than like the wall kind of thing in the chamber, you know, where people would want to say, I'll pay to fill it, just because you know that it's going to be on a map, probably maybe with the chamber, you know, pointing people in the direction to go check them out.
I think that I love them because, yeah, I just think they're really cool.
They're
I
really
think the plan for placement has to be really strategic,
Yeah,
because some of these are not small and just, you know, 25 could, on Main Street could
Well, no, it's,
not
yeah.
be the best thing. So I think that's why I really like it. I think it's great. But I think the plan has to be really strategic about where they're gonna be, how they're gonna be maintained. And just, I'd be interested to know just the safety element of it, because as much as they look really cool, some kid is gonna climb up on top of that.
The line.
Yeah, and so that's, I think they're, yeah, love to go forward with it, but I think we need to be really strategic and how they look, and they need to be strategically placed, and it can't be a cluster and scattered and.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, they
We need
do.
to engage
Yeah.
also the Parks Committee and, you know, and because I see these down by the marina, you know, and there, I mean, on the dock, there's a lot of times big planners. Is that a place for it? And then safety is an issue, but
Yeah.
is it that you can maybe secure it down? But those are all good points that we
Yeah,
need to
it's very cool.
go through.
It needs to be classy. It doesn't need to be. Right.
And I don't know that we can leave it up to the business for the maintenance, because, I mean, as much as we all have good intentions, I could see me flying through July and then I go, shit, I never watered I watered my peacock.
Like this one then? Like,
We're gonna give you natural grasses.
the dead one.
Well, so I guess,
Or the solid metal ones.
Yeah, exactly.
do I need to water that?
But no, just to Jody's
So
point, I
I
think
was
that's a very good point. I mean, we had trouble getting, you know,
Right.
we get busy in the summer, and I mean, no fault of anybody's, you know, everything sounds like a super amazing idea in March until July comes, and then it's
can't
not
see it.
such a
Yeah.
good idea anymore.
I have no
Mass chaos.
bandwidth. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I think it's cool, but I think it has to be very planned out and.
I do too, but yeah,
Very
very cool idea.
strategic and
Very
where they
awesome.
But I
go.
think two examples of this, so that they're around if we can do them in this coming summer, so that people could get used to seeing them, and then all of a sudden next year we come out with
Yeah, very.
would you like to have a peacock? Would you like to have a, you know, a dead lion? A brown lion. So I guess Rocky, do you have any idea how much, like, just an average one of these costs to do?
Oh, if you go buy it online, you're probably spending anywhere from $700 to $1,200 a piece,
Just for the frame.
just for the frame.
Yeah, easily.
But our idea is, let's see, like I said, I have leverage.
Yeah.
You've got connection,
Yeah.
so let's start there, and then, I mean, and then I agree that you have to be careful about, is it gonna water it, but at some point, if the business owner says, I'm gonna do it, they have to do it, and if they don't, we'll be like, hey, you know, your lion just died, and we're gonna
Especially
come
if
and
they
take
paid
it
for it.
away.
Well, especially if the business paid for it. I mean, like, that's what Nick and I were saying. If the business pays for it, then they're gonna be that much more likely to water it.
Yeah,
We're just gonna have to monitor it.
Because I mean, if you pay $500 to sponsor something for the year, you know, you're gonna wanna upkeep that a
right,
little bit. I mean, that's, you know,
They're
that would be
also
my
making the
driving
assumption
force.
that it's right outside their door and it's easy to go water. what happens and what happens if you can't be right? I go,
That's exactly.
right, so
I
there's
mean, my
gonna,
mom
yeah.
brought me plants this summer that I killed 3 times over, so.
Right,
Great
exactly.
example of.
So that's why
it.
there needs to be a good plan in place. And what does it mean when you sponsor it? What does that mean you have to do and what does the DDA or the city is responsible for? So I
Yeah.
think it's a great idea. It just needs a really good plan. We need to think it all out.
And I would agree with
Yeah,
that.
to start small
And I would definitely
There you go.
sponsor one, but I would actually connect my watering system to it, so I would never have to deal with it. So I mean,
Yeah.
people can figure out a different way.
yeah.
I mean, maybe it'll replace the trees and we'll just put the irrigation up.
Oh, Lord.
Um,
All right,
but-
yeah.
But this, I don't wanna come back to what's the city gonna do for it, this is, I mean, we work with everybody, but I wanna take stuff away from the city, not have the city, we got these
Well, they don't.
saying, can you have Lucas go water tomorrow?
No,
Because he would
no,
shoot us.
no.
Matt, do you think there'd be any resistance at all from city council on these?
Probably not.
I think if we come with a good plan, if there's a good plan, and it's ridiculous. And I can't be on the downtown enhanced committee, but I would be happy to be a part of this discussion.
Yes.
Right, so
Right.
when you meet about and talk
Can you
about
add
that,
her to?
I'm happy to join in on that.
Right, we have to be careful.
Yeah.
as far as
Add Amy
We have to be
for that.
strategic.
numbers that we have.
Perfect, all right, moving on.
Okay,
Director update, this is from Director Demuse.
okay, so a little bit on communications. I mentioned the last meeting that we're starting to have Ella, our student representative, work on some of the social media stuff. So she and I need to get together and kind of talk about that. You've all gotten kind of an invitation accidentally to join me on Asana Task Management. It's a software app of different things, and depending on the project, then you can access it and we can all communicate. Sorry, I didn't intend for you all to get an invite when you did, but you did. And so.
I actually thought it worked good. I thought I was supposed to do it, so I went ahead and downloaded the app, put the app on my phone, got into the project. I'm like, this is perfect because, I mean, we can look into more, it'd be a little learning curve for all of us, but I mean, especially the people that are not tech savvy.
I've tech savvy, I've never used a task manager though.
It's really a great
it's
program
easy,
as far as everybody can have roles and duties and can see what other, people are doing on different projects, and you can have your own tasks. So and you don't have to be necessarily in all 12 of mine. So, that's, so.
And a prime example is Amy's gonna be on the garden sculpture
Right.
thing, so we could include her on all the documents for that. But she doesn't have to be on the lighting and the everything else. So
Yeah.
it's kind of neat and we'll explore more.
It would be it's a great,
Is there a cost to it?
no, there could be, but I think we're gonna try and see what we can do with it at the free level.
Okay.
Also I'm working right now to develop the constant contact. That was something that Matt brought up, that we'd like to, they'd like to start seeing the downtown doing a e-newsletter and that, which I think is great. I have been fighting with it a little bit to try to hook it up to our website to get it to populate automatically to give us the emails.
That's what the chamber uses, and also that's what
What's
the Lyric uses.
Constant
What's the website?
Our
Remember
website,
the lyric.
Downtown Harbor Space.
No, what's the back end of it?
Oh,
Look at the lyric.
The Lyric does.
I have been in it and I built most of the website. So, but
I used to use MailChimp, which was just like constant contact.
and
so.
MailChimp for some reason is really easy to link to it. But for some reason, Constant Contact is not as easy to link to it as far as.
Well, then why not
MailChimp.
use the one that links? What's the downside of that?
Because I think as far as the Constant Contact and what's going out is better.
The contact and the way you can build the newsletter.
Better than, it's a
Yeah,
little bit
It's pretty,
more accessible.
Would we be doing for newsletters and things like, same like for the chamber, if we have events or something, we would email to you and it could go in the newsletter?
Would be great.
Or whoever we're emailing it to.
Yeah, so that's where we're at with communications.
I think with communications, we take into the chamber into that, so we can put each other's stuff on links and everything else.
Definitely. I don't know if we would have a calendar.
We can't do
On
a
city.
calendar is tough for,
No, but just like a
A link to-
June, we're having this, these are some events that are happening in June.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yes,
a list of June events.
I'm doing a tile class in June.
yeah, that would be.
You are?
No, I'm getting married in June, I'm not doing anything else.
What if we do a big tile cake,
Hmm,
you know?
Doing tile wedding papers already, 300 of them.
And then we could still, keeping in continuity with, us working side by side with the city that, we would have city updates in there as well.
For sure, and all this would run through Victor and the city, and Margot would be the gatekeeper saying that you're not gonna have an event that's not appropriate. Perfect,
Like a serpent in the church parking lot.
we would never do a survey.
Exactly. Just a really large vampire.
So financial update,
Financial update. Tim asked me to make this a standing line item on our agenda. So what I gave you, so don't get super excited, was the, no, it's over by Tim. Damien.
Oh, here, we can on this way.
Here, you can have this one. I'll just put it up here. This is just our income revenue. This is not our expenses. So that's just why I wanted to preface that. Don't get super excited, but get excited because we do actually, we are in a good spot. So so far what we collected by this March, what just came in, is you can see where we got the breakdown from the TIF, which is 38,000, 6,000 totaling all the way down through the college, the cemetery, and totaling $59,221. So all the great things that have been happening to the value of Harbor Springs downtown, the new building, we're seeing that very much reflected this year and last year as well.
and I just wanted to add this for transparency, so all of us on the board, if we say, yeah, let's do garden sculpture, we know, because in years past, when I sat on the board, we had all these great ideas, but we had to be like, oh, let's do this. And then we go to the city and be like, hey, can we have some money? But we gotta do this. So I don't want to do that. I want to be self-sufficient. So this is a great way for all of us. And I know Margot's done this every year with financials, but if you're like me, I forget from month to month where we are financially. So this says, hey, we have some money here. And then we will also pair it to expenses. And just an easy, simple way to look at it, these are our expenses, this is what the money is. And so we had this year to spend this. We're spending $20-some thousand on fixing the globes and the light bulbs in downtown. We're gonna spend some money to take out the fountain and fix that, even though there's a lot of donations, which that reminds me, we're a nonprofit, correct?
We're tax exempt.
Tax
We're the
exempt.
same as the city. I mean, we are.
So therefore, that's something that we could submit a bill to him that he gave $20,000 to the city. I mean, to the DDA.
You would know better how that,
We'll talk to Nick and ask Nick that.
about how the donations are made.
But I mean,
Yeah.
that's something that we should look at for him, because he's doing the work, pro bono, so thank you for that, but let's see if we can get him a donation. So anyway, my point is, I want to be fiscally responsible for the finances, and then this would be a great way if we review it real quick. I don't want to spend a bunch of time because these meetings are too long anyway. Just bam, this is it, this is where we stand, and then move on.
And I don't know if you remember, I think when we budgeted in the 2022 budget, that our operating expenses were gonna be, we're going to be, what we budgeted was right around $95,000. That did include the 23,000 or 20,000 for the downtown, for the lighting project. So that's why I wanted to say, don't get, we are doing much better, but
It's not like we have $100,000 in the coffers. There is right now, but that money is earmarked for projects that we said we're gonna spend for the city. I want to be open and honest and transparent with our finances, but we do bring in a lot more money because the DDA is here. Yes, Harbor Springs, the city is, and the TIF is giving 38,000, but there's another 70,000 that comes in because of the things the DDA does. And we're gonna use that to pay back or help beautify the downtown.
The special assessment does not come in until summer, until your summer taxes, so that's why that you're not seeing that there. We also had obviously what we just discussed, the revenue, our net revenue of $6,492 from the Ice Fest, which left us with right now our current operating balance of $65,713.94. We do have a reserve fund balance that we will be looking to spend on projects, and but we're in a healthy spot.
So enough said, I just want to make sure we bring it to the attention, so all of us are aware, because every time we talk about projects, I cringe about we're going to be in the black or in the red, and I don't want to be in the red. Moving on. TIF renewal.
TIF renewal, our committee is going to meet to start working on the TIF renewal. I have just doing some education, signed up for some webinars and things through the Michigan Downtowns Association on TIF renewals and other things so once I go through those, we'll be in a better place, I think, as far as rewriting the TIF by the fall. But the committee is going to start beginning to meet to talk about projects. And so any projects, any thoughts that you all have that you want to see put into the plan, please email me so we can incorporate them into the committee meeting, which I believe was Tim, Jody, Kathy, myself.
And Nick.
And Nick, yes, when we
get there. Okay, perfect. Other business, old business?
Ryan Bedini resigned from the DDA. He, as you know, he's opened a store in Florida, and he also has some chronic health issues. And so all of his health care needs have been moved to Florida, which makes it even harder for him to get up here. And he was a valuable member, and we appreciated all of his input, but that means we are going to be looking for a new DDA member. We still have two applications and applicants from, I think it was in the fall, when the applicants that had marked that they would be possibly interested, that we want to reach out to, and then we'll have to have an appointment.
So what I was going to do for that, unless there's somebody else wants to, I have to reach out, to both of those applicants that applied, just to have a conversation with them. And then I was going to go to Matt and have a conversation with him. So he's educated too about these two people. And then between that and Margot knows them, then we can kind of give Matt our recommendations, and then he can appoint it as mayor in the city council meeting. Unless anybody has any other questions on that.
What?
Who's our two applicants?
It was Rachel Morford, which I do know Rachel. She lives in the city. And I've just known her through the schools and things like that. And the other one was Eric Winsma, and I don't know Eric, and I know from reading his application, he has a place on Bay Street. I don't know, is he a full-time resident?
Claims to be.
And that, I mean, obviously, we would like to have somebody who's active. I mean, and with the board. And
Rachel did a lot of volunteerism for the robotics club, as from my understanding, at the school and volunteer a lot there. So, I mean, I love to hear the word volunteerism, so we can all get more stuff done for free.
I think Eric's got some experience in downtown stuff.
Okay.
I think.
We'll look at that.
His application.
And Rachel, from my understanding, has a lot of knowledge in social media, website development and stuff like that. So, I mean, we have Ella now, but who knows if next year we'll have her expertise or not. All right, so any other old business, other business?
I just want to ask Mayor Bagheera if he's pleased with the DDA projects that they have, fund balance, all that kind of stuff, just, what your opinion or maybe the opinion of you and the entire council as far as, do you see the validity in DDA?
Yeah.
I mean, I know there's been a lot of criticism, not from your part, but criticism from the other people as far as cutting costs, how we could just cut the DDA and we'd have an extra $100,000 every yeyear, which we all know isn't the case. But
Right.
Yeah, that's
We
what
only have an
we
extra $44,000 every year.
the city would have, they wouldn't have to spend $38,000, but when they didn't do that, they would not be able to get the $60,000 that they get from other avenues.
Right.
And
Yeah,
they
no,
wouldn't get the
there's-
free labor, but I mean, if the city, I want to either partner with the city or dissolve the DDA. I don't want to be in that, that gray area, like,
I think I'm the same.
I think we do a public service. I think we do things, and like the lights, I mean, those lights. So you can think the city's 38,000, you can say, well, the city had done the lights if we were here, so that's 20, so now they're down to 20. So if we take care of the fountain, well, that's would have been $20,000 too.
Yeah, no, I think everyone on council is fine with DDA, as far as I know. I haven't heard anything.
And there is some public comment that they don't think it's necessary, they don't want it. And part of that, I think, is education, part of that is those people I would welcome to come to the meetings and sit in the audience and give their input, or they don't have to be on the DDA to sit on the board, the downtown enhancement committee. So everybody, I think, in the city has a lot of great opinions. And I think it's just communication, a lot of it, so.
I think if you look at every healthy city around, there is a very active DDA and there's an active chamber. And I think those three entities together is what makes, obviously money is always an underlying source of it, but in order to make a very vibrant, thriving city, I think each aspect of the city, a chamber and a DDA, are a very valuable asset. And I think if you dissolve one or both, I think is a huge travesty to a city.
But they need to work together. And
I think we've done a really good job at doing that. I mean, I think over the last few years, the city and the DDA have definitely come together and have completed some pretty amazing projects, and it's just getting better. So I think in Merchants Walkway, possible sculptures, I think we've come a long way even from the 4 years I've been involved. So I think we're getting there.
It's a slow process, and I think that's why I always want to engage the city, engage the chamber, and engage Victor in the direction that we go. So I don't want to spend a bunch of time and energy of us, and then all of a sudden, we're like, okay, well, glad we did that, but now let's go to the next project, and we just throw it away or something, so.
well, I know that your council meetings have been long enough. God knows the last few meetings. But there's always a spot on there for, any updates from commissions, committees, et cetera. I don't know if that's something that, if Margot can just submit like her DDA director update, and maybe a council meeting would be the time to share what the city's doing, what the DDA is doing, maybe what the chamber's up to too,
We get updates,
10
regular updates from both.
Okay.
Yeah.
10 years ago, I called Jim Bowman, 12 years ago, to congratulate him on what Boyne City had been up to and how they had pulled themselves up by their bootstraps when, they were real down and out. And he would take absolutely no credit. He was a chamber director at the time. He said, oh, no, we have the Main Street Association, we have the city, we have the chamber, and we have the DDA. And all four of us have worked together to create what's going on in Boyne City right now. Vibrant downtown, strolling the streets, whatever they were doing. And I was touched by the way he said that, that all four of them had worked well together. So I just think council also needs to know that we want to work together with the city side by side, aligning ourselves, not butting heads about anything about like, what are you gonna pay for? What are you gonna pay for? What are you gonna pay for? I see that John Leo was on there today and we appreciate him.
Always here.
Yep, he's always listening and he's always, so I just wanted to throw that out there that, not that we need an attaboy, pat on the back, nothing, just maybe a recognition, just the fact that we're here and we're actually working and doing something.
I actually like other boards, so if we do anything the city likes, please give us feedback. If we do anything the city doesn't like, we definitely get that feedback. So.
Prior to a meeting,
So, and
please.
then one other thing that other business, and I know we need to get out of here, but the redevelopment, what's it called? The
Ready.
redevelopment ready. So the DDA, Kathy, when Kathy was on the board, she went to every one of those meetings. That meeting is the time when I would not be able to make it, period. So I don't know if we will be able to shoulder the burden by taking different meetings. So somebody from the DDA is there. That was thrown out. Kathy and I talked about that. If we could have somebody go from the DDA just to make sure the DDA is part of that and knows what they're doing. I don't know
When is
what
that meeting?
Friday, Friday mornings.
This Friday.
Friday. Yeah.
It's at 10 o'clock.
And if I'm.
I mean, this particular one, I'm downstate from the other town, but I would say 90% of the time I am not around during that meeting. I'm doing my best to.
10 a.m. this Friday, March 11th.
Yeah, that's what Jake just said.
And where's it at?
Here.
Right here. Are you going for the first one?
I can attend.
Awesome. So think about that and maybe we add that as a standing item for the meeting or send out the meeting time, because I think it's important. It's a neat thing. It was started a long time ago. Rachel started it with Tom, I believe.
She did.
And then, but anyway, I think it's
Gives us access to, I believe funding
Right.
and other things that we wouldn't be, and that was why Rachel started it.
at the last
Forgot it.
council meeting, the historical society said, raised their hand and said, hey, I want to be a part of it. So I think it's important that we're there, but most of the time I can't. So we'll keep the meetings, and then we'll try to get, if all of you could take one meeting or something, I'm sure I could go to one or two, but most of the time I'm gone. So that's the redevelopment meeting. Anybody else?
I think at one point we should discuss the impact on our businesses because of high fuel prices and shortages that's going to happen, but it's already happening. I went to see Nicole, the new coffee shop. So I told her she needs to order cups like right now. Paper is going to be one of the biggest shortages this year. So we don't want to scoop ice cream in people's hands. So we ordered $5,000 worth of cups.
Disposables in general, Rocky.
Yeah, and we're trying to get paper for recycle. Well, it's hard to recycle something that's dirty, but at least it's not styrofoam, it can break down. But the prices are already double. And when you go to order, they're out. So I'm like, here, if you want your business to succeed, you better have some cups. So she's like, I really appreciate it. And we're going to try to help them out because I think she's struggling a little bit. So, myself and Cindy are going to try to assist her.
And they're trying to get their espresso machine back up and running. That's been a point of contention with them. I go there every day to get espresso. It's not fixed, but their English muffin bread is amazing. But you bring up a good point. If there's tidbits that the DDA can send to businesses that we know ahead of time, so as business owners, if you guys know of anything that's coming, I mean, in that newsletter that Margot is going to develop in constant contact, we can put stuff like that in there, like, hey, price is going up. Have you ordered your supplies for 2027 yet?
Yeah, anything paper, please. I mean, if you want to succeed, order it right now. Otherwise, you're not going to have enough of it. And you got to order for the whole year. You're going to have to take some money out of your pocket.
That's a great point. We can add it to our new newsletter. Public comment?
And for those that have liquor licenses, the issue, which I was kind of unsure why there was issues getting certain kinds of liquor, keep ordering them every week, is that glass is at a Glass is another,
Inflated
yeah,
expense.
well, no, there's not enough to go around.
Shortage.
Thank you. So they have the liquor available at most,
Can't bottle it.
they can't bottle it.
I can bring them a bottle.
I got a few empties.
Well, but the problem is with the MLCC is that we're actually, if our bartenders go outside, they're actually supposed to break all of those bottles into the garbage can, into the recycling cans, recycling. So, I was just amazed to find out that that was the whole holdup. So, you know, I'm sure like the New York, we just. keep
You'd
trying-
like the newsletter to read, make sure you buy your liquor now. You know?
No, that would not-
Well, no, I think it's just, I mean, you could, you know, these things are problem orders, you know?
Yes, of course. Think ahead,
Yeah.
far ahead.
So, yeah, but those are great ideas. If you have any, things like that, or even other websites that tell us stuff like that, we can add it to the constant, we can just email Margot and she can add it to our new fancy newsletter. Any other, public comment? All right, I guess we can adjourn at 9:56. Thanks everybody for coming. Enjoy your day. Make it the best day ever.
Yeah, that's.
Wedding, we're getting married. All right. That's a lot of party favors.
Just like we did for.
It's a lot of people.
That's a lot, that's a big wedding.
My fiance's got a
Thanks, Al.
huge
Hey,
family,
I
so.
was trying to send you this, because my picture's so much better than their picture.
Hey, Matt, I tried to order, we wanted to get a sample.
Plus another one.
I thought
We're still working on it or something.
Where do we put them?
180